Have you ever looked at her and thought she felt nothing? That the silence she gives you means she's moved on, clean and free. You might believe she's untouched by what happened, but what if the silence is louder than you think? What if the laughter you once heard in her voice now hides the weight she can't release? She doesn't talk about it, not because it didn't matter, but because acknowledging it would crack the image she built to stay strong. It's not healing, it's hiding, it's surviving. And survival is messy. It doesn't come with closure or clean breaks. It comes with replaying every memory behind closed eyes, smiling in public, but collapsing in solitude. You thought she walked away unhurt, but pain doesn't always show up in tears. Sometimes it shows up in silence, in distance, in the absence of a goodbye. Still, this story isn't just about her. It's about what you're meant to learn from it. You were watching her reactions, but the real lesson lies in your own. Do you seek meaning in her silence, or do you let it challenge you to grow? The way she acts now isn't proof that she stopped caring. It's proof that she once did, deeply. And what you do next isn't about getting her back. It's about finding who you are when the noise fades and all that's left is you. Number 1. The truth about women and regret. Here's something you won't hear often. Women do feel regret, but they almost never admit it. Not because they're heartless, not because they don't care, but because admitting regret means confronting a truth they've spent their entire identity avoiding. You see, a woman's self-worth is often built carefully, layer by layer. By friends, by culture, by the illusion of independence. So when she walks away from love, she's not encouraged to reflect. She's celebrated. She posts smiling pictures. She hangs out with friends. She may even jump into something new, and the world applauds her glow up. But what the world sees isn't the full story, because true regret doesn't hit in the spotlight. It waits in the shadows. It shows up when the noise dies down, when the party ends, when she's home alone and her phone is quiet. That's when regret whispers. Not loudly, but slowly, in fragments, in memories. It comes when a familiar scent reminds her of you, when a song pulls her back to a moment she pretended to forget, when she meets someone new and he makes her laugh, but it doesn't feel the same. That's when she starts to realize maybe she didn't upgrade. Maybe she left something real behind. But here's the hard truth most men miss. The more you try to prove your worth to her, the more you chase, the more confident she becomes in her decision to walk away. You're pleading, telling her, yes, you were the prize. You were right to leave. And now she holds the power. But what if you stopped? Not to punish her, not to manipulate her, but because you finally see your own value. What if, instead of fighting to be understood, you became a man who no longer needs to explain? This is where everything changes. When you stop reacting, you interrupt her narrative. When you go silent, she starts to wonder, why isn't he chasing me? Did I misjudge him? Was I wrong? And that seed of doubt grows in silence. Men who understand this don't beg. They rebuild. They evolve. They rise. They don't waste energy chasing what's already walked away, because they know something powerful. The moment you stop feeding her ego with your pain, she's left with her own choices, and deep down, she knows exactly what she gave up. She'll never say it out loud. Her pride won't let her, but she feels it. And by the time she realizes it, you'll be too far ahead to care. Have you ever gone silent and suddenly she came back? Drop a comment. I stopped chasing. I started rising. Number 2. Why begging is a man's greatest weakness. The moment a man falls to his knees, begging for her to stay, that's the moment he surrenders everything: his dignity, his power, his identity. And once he hands those over, he loses the one thing he thought he was saving: her respect. Here's the truth most men never hear. When a woman finally leaves, she left emotionally long before. She already disconnected. She already built her story in her head. That leaving you was necessary, that she deserves more. So when you plead, you're not changing her mind. You're proving her right. Society tells men to fight for love, to pour their hearts out, to prove they care. But the harsh reality is, begging doesn't show love. It screams weakness. It tells her, you were right. I need you more than I need myself. And at that point, the game is over. Because she doesn't mourn the man who begs. She pities him. She validates her choice through his collapse. But what if you didn't beg? What if, instead of reacting, you stood tall in silence? What if, instead of chasing, you walked away with your pride intact? This is where the dynamic shifts. Because now, she's not reassured. She's unsettled. She expected desperation. She got distance. She expected validation. She got mystery. And nothing haunts a woman more than wondering why the man she left isn't broken. That doubt, it lingers. And here's what separates the weak from the strong. Weak men try to fix what broke them. Strong men rebuild themselves. Weak men beg. Strong men vanish. Not to punish her, but to preserve themselves. So the next time you feel the urge to text her, to explain, to fight for what's already gone, stop and ask yourself, do I want to be a man she pities, or the one she'll quietly regret losing? Have you ever walked away instead of begging, and what happened next? Share your story below. Comment, I don't beg, I rebuild. Number 3, the first step of a Stoic man mastering emotions is pain. The first stage of losing her isn't rage, it's pain. A heavy, silent kind of pain that settles in your chest. Like a stone you can't swallow. You walk through your day like a ghost. Everything's quieter, but not peaceful, just empty. And whether she admits it or not, this is the reaction she expected. Because most women know men are clumsy with emotion. They expect you to unravel, to blow up, to begin, to send a desperate message or show up at her door. It's a pattern she's seen before and probably prepared for. But what she isn't prepared for, it is your silence, not the cold kind, the calm kind, the kind that says, I feel everything, but I let nothing control me. That's the first lesson of a Stoic man. You don't run from pain, you stand in it, let it burn, and breathe through the fire. Emotional mastery isn't acting numb. It's feeling every ounce of sadness, anger, and confusion. Without becoming those emotions, you don't pretend you're fine. You don't perform. You process. And in doing so, you reclaim control. Because the moment you stop trying to fix what's broken, you start fixing what matters. Yourself. This is where the dynamic shifts. She expected you to break. Instead, you became still. She expected to see weakness, but you showed strength in silence, and that shakes her more than any words ever could. Why isn't he chasing me? Why doesn't he look broken? That doubt, it is the beginning of her regret. Not because you played a game, but because you didn't. You just chose yourself. You chose dignity over desperation, purpose over pity, because in the end, a man who masters his emotions, he is a man no one can manipulate. Have you ever chosen silence over reaction? And how did it change things? Share your experience below. Comment, I master my emotions. Pain doesn't own me. Number 4, the dark psychology of indifference. What truly unsettles a woman isn't hate. It's indifference. Anger still means you care. Sadness means she mattered. Even hatred is a sign she left a mark. But indifference, that tells her she no longer holds space in your mind. And that is devastating, because women don't walk away expecting to disappear. They expect to echo in your thoughts, in your silence, in the way you scroll her stories and replay her memories. She wants to know she mattered, even if she's the one who left. But when you don't react, when you stop watching, stop reaching, when you vanish into your own life and stop performing for her attention, that's when doubt begins to grow. Did he really move on? Was I not that important? Did I misjudge everything? She won't say it out loud, but the silence you leave behind becomes louder than any message you could have sent. Because she was ready for drama. She was prepared for breakdowns and begging. She knew how to handle desperation. But how do you fight someone who's no longer playing the game? You don't. And that's what terrifies her. Understand this. Indifference isn't bitterness. It's not passive aggression. It's clarity. It's strength. It's walking away, not out of spite. but because you finally remembered who you are. You don't need to hurt her. You just need to stop feeding her relevance, because the moment you stop caring is the moment she starts questioning everything. Have you ever chosen indifference? And what was her reaction? Share your experience below. Comment: I let go. I moved on. I never looked back. Number 5. The power of silent rebuilding. After heartbreak, most men react loudly, desperately, publicly. They want her to see it, see their pain, their progress, their attempts to win the breakup. Some fall into chaos, drinking, wasting time, running from the silence. Others become performers, posting exaggerated gym updates, forcing smiles, making sure she knows, look what you lost. But in both cases, she still holds the power, because she's still the focus. A Stoic man, however, chooses a different path. He turns inward, not to hide, but to heal. He doesn't need to prove anything, not to her, not to the world, not even to himself. His recovery is quiet, unseen, unapplauded, but real. There are no announcements, no dramatic declarations, just steady discipline, small habits, private growth. He doesn't rebuild to be noticed. He rebuilds because it's who he is. And here's the irony. She won't notice at first. She'll assume you're struggling, stuck in the past, waiting for her return. But time reveals everything. People start to talk, not loudly, in whispers. They notice the changes. How he walks differently, carries himself with calm strength, radiates a peace she never saw in him before. One day, she stumbles across a photo, not curated, not posed, just a moment. Candidate, confident, free. And in that moment, it hits her. He didn't fall apart. He didn't wait. He rose, not out of spite, not for her approval, but because he decided to become better without her. That realization stings, because she thought she was the turning point in his story, but she was just a page. And worse, he's not trying to show her any of it. He's simply living. By the time regret enters her heart, he's already moved on. Not with rage, but with purpose. Not with noise, but with presence. That's the real power. The kind that doesn't beg to be seen. The kind that no longer needs her to see it at all. Have you ever rebuilt quietly and found unexpected power in it? Share your story in the comments. Comment: I rise in silence. I rebuild for me. Number 6. Why women come back. She doesn't come back because she misses you. She comes back because she lost the grip she thought she had. Understand this. When a woman leaves, she expects to stay in your head. Even in her absence, she assumes you're still watching, still waiting, still hoping. She believes she can return any time. And you'll still be there, longing, wide open, easy to reclaim. But what happens when you don't wait? What happens when you vanish, not out of anger, but because you've outgrown her? You're not bitter. You're just done. You stopped checking her posts. You stopped watching her life from the sidelines. You stopped being her silent admirer. You redirected that energy back to yourself, into your growth, your goals, your peace. At first, she enjoys the distance. She feels free, validated. She explores new options and tells herself she upgraded. But time has a sharp memory. It reveals the truth in quiet ways. The men she meets don't have your depth. They don't challenge her. They lack that grounded presence she once overlooked. And then nostalgia sets in. She replays the good moments, but edits out her own mistakes. Now, she wonders, did I walk away from something rare? She reaches out, not out of love, not out of true regret, but to test her power. Does he still want me? Can I still pull him back in? This is not romance. This is ego. Here's where many men fall. They take her message as a sign, a chance to restart, redemption. And just like that, they walk back into the same pattern, proving she never really lost them. But the man who has evolved, he doesn't rush to reply. He doesn't collapse into old habits. He knows the difference between control and connection. So he stays still, not cold, just clear. And that's when it truly hits her. This time, she actually lost him. And now, the regret is real. Have you ever had her come back? And how did you respond? Drop your story in the comments. Comment, I don't react, I evolve. Number 7, the test when she reaches out. Out of nowhere, she sends a message. A casual, hey. A warm, I was thinking about you. Or the classic, how have you been? It seems innocent, friendly, maybe even sweet. But don't fall for it. This isn't about love. It's not regret. It's a test. She wants to know if you still belong to her. Emotionally, silently, subconsciously. If you reply instantly, if your tone is warm, if you act like nothing happened. She gets her answer. You're still available. You're still hoping. And she still holds the power. A woman doesn't need you back. She just wants to know she can come back. Anytime. If she chooses. But a man who has moved on sees it clearly. He doesn't jump. He doesn't chase. He doesn't feed her ego. He controls the frame. So what do? First, pause. Don't rush. Time is your advantage. Let her sit in uncertainty. Second, respond with neutrality. Short, polite, emotionless. Doing well. Hope you are too. Nothing more. Third, stay detached. If she digs deeper, keep your tone even. Don't give her the satisfaction of knowing she still matters. Because here's the truth. When you don't react, when you don't reach, when you treat her message like any other text, That's when she feels the shift. She's no longer in control. You're no longer accessible. And that realization, that's what stings the most. It's not rejection, it's irrelevance. And that's when the real regret begins. Has she ever tested you like this? And how did you respond? Drop your story in the comments. Comment, I don't chase, I don't flinch, I stay centered. Number 8, rising above, becoming untouchable. Real power isn't making her regret leaving. It's reaching a place where her regret no longer affects you. Most men get stuck. They wait. They hope. They check her profile, wondering if she remembers, hoping one day she'll come back. But a man who's leveled up moves differently. He stops asking, "Does she miss me?" and starts asking, "Am I becoming the kind of man I admire?" That shift changes everything. You're no longer driven by her absence. You're guided by your own purpose. And with time, your focus builds something unshakable. Discipline, self-respect, peace. You no longer need her validation, or anyone's. You stop chasing moments. You start building momentum. And that's when it happens. She feels the distance, not because you blocked her, but because you no longer orbit around her world. She sees the change, the quiet confidence, the energy you carry. The man who once needed her doesn't anymore. And that realization, it cuts deeper than silence ever could. Because the moment she knows you're no longer reachable, that's when regret shows up. But here's the truth. You won't care. Not out of bitterness, but because you've grown past it. You're not playing games. You're not trying to win. You're simply free. Freedom is the goal, not approval, not revenge, not closure, just freedom. That's what makes you untouchable, not your strength, but your stillness, not your words, but your peace. The real win isn't getting her back. It's never needing her again. Have you ever reached a point where her regret didn't matter anymore? Share your moment in the comments. Comment, I am untouchable. I am at peace. Number 9, the final lesson. She will never admit it, but she will feel it. She won't say it. She won't text you. You'll never hear the words, I was wrong. I miss you. I shouldn't have left. But she feels it. Silently, deeply, privately. It shows up late at night when the noise fades and the silence grows louder. It hits her when she scrolls through your profile and sees you thriving, not pretending, but living. It creeps in when she's next to someone new, but feels nothing familiar, because he's not you, not even close. Still, she'll smile online. She'll post like everything's perfect, because pride is louder than honesty. But the truth sits beneath it all, a quiet discomfort she won't name. And here's where most men get it wrong. They wait. They hold their breath, hoping for a text, a call, an apology. They think her regret will heal the wound, but it won't, because the real wound is needing her to regret it. The man who has truly moved on doesn't wait for closure. He is the closure. He no longer needs her recognition to validate his worth, because his life speaks for itself, with or without her. She'll feel that. She'll feel the absence of your need, the void where her power used to be. And that's what cuts the deepest. Not your silence, but your peace. Not your words, but your distance. And by the time she realizes what she lost, you'll be too far gone to even look back. That's the final lesson. The real victory isn't her saying she regrets losing you. It's you not needing to hear it. Have you ever reached a point where you didn't need her apology anymore? Share your moment in the comments. Comment, "I am my own closure. I've already moved on." You thought she didn't feel anything, that her silence meant peace. But now you understand. Sometimes silence hides the loudest regrets. Still, this isn't about her. It never was. This has always been your journey. The moment you stopped waiting, stopped chasing, stopped needing closure, you stepped into your true power. She didn't destroy you. She exposed the parts that were unfinished, and you rebuilt them stronger, wiser, cleaner. You no longer seek answers. You no longer crave validation. You live. You grow. You move forward. That's what being untouchable truly means. It's not being cold. It's being clear. It's not about proving anything. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to prove anything anymore. By the time she realizes what she lost, you'll be too focused on what you've gained. And that's the ultimate lesson. Your worth was never up for debate. It was always yours to claim. If this message spoke to something deep in you, don't scroll away just yet. Hit that like button to support the message. Subscribe to join the Stoic Brotherhood, and drop this in the comments. Her silence didn't break me. It built the man I am today. Let's remind each other, we don't need closure. We become it.